ಜ್ಞಾನದ ಉದ್ದೇಶಕ್ಕಿಂತ ದಾಸೋಹದ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ದೊಡ್ಡದು. ದಾಸೋಹವೆಂದರೆ ಫಲಾಪೇಕ್ಷೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವುದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಜ್ಞಾನ ದಾಸೋಹವೆಂದರೆ ಪರಸ್ಪರ ಜ್ಞಾನದ ವಿನಿಮಯ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವುದು. ದಾಸೋಹವೆಂದರೆ ಸಹನಾವತು ಸಹನಾಭು ಅತ್ತು. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು ಸಿ ಎ ಬಿ ಚಂದರ್ಗಿ ಅವರು ಜ್ಞಾನ ದಾಸೋಹದ ಟಿಪ್ಪಣಿಯನ್ನ ಬರೆದು ಕಳಿಸಿರುವುದಕ್ಕೆ. ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಈವ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್. ರವೀಂದ್ರ ಕೋರೆಯರ್, Chairman of Bangalore branch of SIRC of ICI, wholeheartedly welcome the 71st Dhanadasova live webcast program from Bangalore branch. The program is an opportunity oriented. It is an professional opportunities in government sector. It is going to be addressed by CA Ashok Rao. On behalf of all the viewers and managing committee members of Bangalore branch, I wholeheartedly welcome CA Ashok Rao sir to the today's session. Welcome you, sir. Dear members, the Central Council member CA Dheeraj Kumar Khandelwal and Chairman Committee on Public and Government Financial Management is going to join because due to technical reasons, the session was delayed. He is in Delhi and in meeting with the Ministry Office. He is trying to join the event. He is going to address our members. What are the initiatives been taken by Committee on Public and Government Financial Management in the government sector? Yes, Bangalore branch is the nodal branch in the Karnataka state. We are working as the directions of Committee on Public and Government Financial Management, especially in a Gram Panchayat training program we are planning to schedule, and also in the municipal reform cell. The implementation of accounting standard of local bodies, government local bodies, is a pilot project is being taken in Karnataka, and we are trying to connecting with the Ministry of Municipalities and Urban Development. That process is under the direction of Public and Government Financial Management. The man behind this force is CA Dheeraj Kumar Khandelwal, who is heading the committee and actively making follow-up for all the branches and the states in southern India. Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka is being taken care by CA Prasanna Kumar sir. He is also one of the committee member of this Committee on Public and Government Financial Management. Apart from that, the many initiatives and what are the opportunities in the government sector, because what I feel is when the committee chairman is joined, I can need to express, because the many conditions are been putting by the whether it is tender or empanelment turnover, that has to be streamlined actually, because once you qualified as a chartered accountant, the turnover limit will come. What is the turnover limit and why every year it is getting changed? That has to be represented before government authorities. Definitely, once sir is joined, I will intimate about this all the process, because already program is delayed by 15 minutes. So kindly excuse for us for the delayed beginning. I will not take much of your time, dear members. And the next week also we are having the sessions on 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. It is all new areas we have been taking sessions are been scheduled. With that note, I wholeheartedly welcome all the members for the today's Jnanadaso webcast program. I request our secretary Bangalore branch C. Srinivas to formally introduce the today's speaker and also in the absence of chief guest. Over to Srinivas.
Thank you, Chairman, for rendering a welcome address. It's a very interesting and special session on professional opportunity in government sector. As you know, there are very few players, very few practitioners in government audits and consultancy. But today we have with us Ashok Rao sir. He's going to explain about what are the opportunities in government sector. We have it. We presently, in the absence of our chief guest, CA Dheeraj Kumar Khandelwal, Chairman of CP and GFM ICA. I would like to give a brief introduction about him. He is having a more than 18 years of experience and is a current Central Council member and is consecutively 2 terms as a Central Council member, and During his tenure, he occupied various committees as chairman and member and done a remarkable contribution to those committees. He was a member of WRC for 3 consecutive terms. He was the chairman of WICA SA in 2009 and 10. He authored CSR, a handbook on green audit, and many other books. And also he has presented written articles on various professional opportunities. He served as independent director on the board of so many other companies. If you take a social platform, he is a president and held various positions in a zonal level in Lions Club of Mumbai, Western Mumbai 2004 and 5. He is a joint director of the World of Priyanka, a monthly Hindi magazine, assistant editor of World Great Faces, a monthly Hindi magazine. He is also having a specialization in the field of project finance, FEMA, cross-border transaction, direct indirect taxes consultancy, and legal matters. With this brief introduction, in the absence, I welcome our Chief Guest Dheeraj Kumar Khandelwal, and I also welcome all the members and viewers for today's program. We have also with us another eminent personality. Speaker for today's program is none other than CA Ashok Rao. Apart from chartered accountancy, he has done various national and international courses and certification courses of his professional interest. He is executive director and senior consultant and management and governance consulting, a management consulting firm. His areas of specialization is areas of governance with the focus on financial reforms, public financial management and accountability, policy formation and review, e-governance evaluation studies, business process reengineering and training. He is having more than 15 years of experience and worked extensively on assignments at the central, state and local government levels in India. Experience in he's got a very good experience in public finance, involved in treasury reforms at the state level as part of various assignments. He is a special invitee of the Committee on Public Finance and Government Accounting of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is instrumental in preparing 5 local body accounting standards on the lines of IPSAS. He is a regular faculty at the Fiscal Policy Institute at Bangalore. He authored a number of articles in the area of government accounting and financial reforms, including an article on applying XBRL for reporting in government and one on making smart cities financial smart. He is also having a hands-on experience in governance. He has worked and actively involved on the various projects of the government locally as well as outside the country. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, sir. I present before you CA Ashok Rao. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and good afternoon to all of you, and thanks for having me on this particular Vijnana Dasoha session. And over the course of the next 1 hour, and hopefully the chairman is able to join us by that time. So we'll try to discuss matters of professional mutual interest. And in fact, I'm happy to be talking of professional opportunities at a time where we seem to have more challenges than opportunities, at least at least in the near future, at least. So with that, what I'll do is I have a presentation. Let me share my screen, and then we can get in right away. So can you just confirm my screen is visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So today's topic, as was rightly introduced, was about professional opportunities in the government sector. Now the question is, why suddenly we're talking about this? Professionals have been around for quite a long time. The government sector has been around for quite a long time. So by now we should have been, generally we talk about new areas like blockchain, artificial intelligence, robotics, what are the opportunities there? But this seems a bit of an anathema that we are talking of opportunities in the government sector, which also talks about the fact that there are so many opportunities, and chartered accountants as a profession have not yet fully exploited the opportunities. for various reasons, which we will try to understand as we go along today's presentation. And we will try to see what I'll try to bring forth before you is that what are the kind of opportunities, where to look for such opportunities, how do you access such opportunities, and more importantly, what is it that we have to be ready with as professionals, or I have to be ready with as a professional to be able to deliver on this opportunities. We'll also look at some of the challenges, and I'm sure many of you have gone through those challenges as well as you try to do work with the government, which is true. But as with any other sector, so it has a couple of peculiarities and challenges which we need to just take it as it comes, as a professional hazard, and then move on with that. So with that, let me straight away. First is, of course, when we say government sector, of course, throughout my presentation is oriented towards the CAs from the smaller towns or people who are just getting into the profession, trying to find their niche areas. So some of what I might say might seem very obvious to some of the senior people. I know some of you have done excellent work with the government, but still it is important that we go through this. When we say government sector, what comes into mind, obviously, is the core government, which we all know. We've been studying right from our school days that we have a national government or a central government, we have state governments, and then we have local governments. This is the three-tier structure, federal structure of the Indian system. And when we say local governments, we have the urban local governments, what we call as the municipalities, town panchayats, and the municipal corporations. And we also have generally a three-tier rural government as well, at the district level, block level, and at the Gram Panchayat level. And generally we try to explore, when we say government sector, we try to restrict to this. But what we need to understand that government is not only about these three things. There are a whole set of quasi or quasi-government entities which also are part of the government sector. What do I mean? There are a whole set of social security and other funds, your pension funds, your provident fund, your investor protection fund, so many sectoral development funds, infrastructure investment funds, which handle huge monies, sometimes much larger than some of the local governments. They handle much higher amounts. Then there are boards, authorities, and corporations, which technically, within inverted commas, don't form part of the government, but they are formed by virtue of specific acts, and they also have a lot of not only do a lot of spending, but they also have a lot of regulatory powers as well. And then what do I mean by government businesses? These are the typical public sector units, the central as well as the state public sector units, and one here and there we also have local governments also setting up certain businesses, joint ventures. This is probably a bit of a familiar area for you because most of you have worked with government businesses, public sector units. But when we look for opportunities, when we define the sector, please make sure that you have a wider canvas and you're looking at a wider set of things for opportunities. So there is also a technical definition of public sector and what is government sector. Let me not get into that, which is dictated by IMF, and they call budgetary units, extra budgetary units, and all that. So, but that is not the focus of our session today. We will look at it from the lens of where the opportunities are. So this was on the government sector as such. So moving on, when we say opportunities in the government sector, it could be anything. But when we say opportunities for the government sector for chartered accountants, it all comes under the broad umbrella of what we call as public finance. So then what is public finance? So let us also try to touch a little on the basics of public finance, because this understanding becomes important for us to, when we actually get down to executing work. Public finance, as the name suggests, it is all about money belonging to the government, which in turn is public money. which could be handled by the national government, the state government, or the local government, or any of the quasi-government authorities. So anything to do with that will come under public finance. And what are the key principles which we need to remember here? It is equity, efficiency, and economy. The popular three E's, which we might have all studied as part of our CA course as well. Equity, efficiency, and economy. It is not profitability, growth, return on investment, leverage, though all of these also form part of the financial decision making, but principally decisions in public finance are governed by these principles: equity, economy, and efficiency. And this is something which will keep coming across when you start doing work. So what does it cover? It covers government revenues, expenditure, asset, as well as liability management. Government accounting might not cover assets and liabilities, which many of us we know. They focus more on the cash inflows and cash outflows only. But public finance, in whatever form you look at it, covers the entire spectrum of revenue, expenditure, assets, and liabilities. And what is unique about public finance is that there is a lot of policy and regulation aspects involved, which we generally don't come across corporate finance. Corporate finance is more about reacting to government policies and fine-tuning business strategies to suit government policies or to take advantage of government policies to comply with government regulations. But when you're sitting as a public finance consultant, you would be setting policies or reviewing policies and regulations, which is that change in mindset that is required. So moving on, so if you ask an economist as to what are the tools of public finance, they will say it is fiscal policy and monetary policy. Basically, even if it is at the local government, though they might not call it a fiscal policy or monetary policy, fiscal policy, let me put it in a very crude way, is all about managing the revenue expenditure, that is managing the ledger. And monetary policy is all about managing the cash book aspect of it, the treasury aspects of it. These are probably the main two tools. But as accountants, we know that these need not be the only two tools. There are so many other finance tools which can be used, and they're equally applicable in the government sector as well. So generally, you will come across these terms of PFMS and IFMIS, Public Finance Management System, or an Integrated Financial Management Information System. So these form the backbone of how public finances are managed. This basically the technology backbone on which many or most public finance systems rely on. And of course, accounting systems in government are significantly different from corporate systems. So it would be very naive to assume that we will come across the same kind of accounting system, or the maturity level of the accounting system will be much lower. It is going to be cash basis accounting with over importance to budget heads. The accounting system might not account for all assets and liabilities, and they might not be producing a balance sheet as well. Though the migration to accrual accounting is happening across the board, but still significant number of government entities do not prepare accrual based accounting, not even double entry in many cases. So these are broadly the public finance characteristics which differentiate it from the regular corporate finance that we have studied. So these two slides are basically on the background on what we mean by government sector, and then the broad spectrum of opportunities of public finance. What is public finance? So moving on, this understanding was required, I felt, before we get into the opportunities part. So next, drawing from what I just explained, you might yourself have reached some conclusions by now that public finance is a lot about accounting. That is our area of strength, so no worries there. It's a lot about finance. Yes, the finance is there in the name itself, and that is also not a new area to us as CS. there is also a lot of economics involved. So whether you are going to call it macroeconomics or developmental economics, or political economics, economy as well. But there is a lot of economics involved. You don't need a degree in economics or a doctorate in economics. But if you are serious about a career in public finance, you definitely need to have some knowledge of economics, basically the fiscal monetary policy and that kind of matters. It is also a lot about public policy. So public policy can be studied independently, independent of finance. But if you are working in public finance area, you need to have some idea of public policy, and you need to, and that knowledge needs to go along with your finance knowledge to be a successful public finance consultant. And needless to say, I may even mention it, whether it is public, corporate finance, or whatever, information technology is a part of everything we do. And the one biggest aspect which sets public finance apart is the social and the political aspect of it. Very, very important. Unless that social and political thinking comes into all the work we do, it is very difficult to make a career in public finance. We will always be like fish out of water. We can never get adjusted to that field, because a lot of the decisions need not necessarily what might make business sense, what might make finance sense, need not necessarily make political sense or social sense. So that is very, very important to consider. And government is there for a particular purpose, not to make money, but to spend money for the most effective use, economy, efficiency, and equity that I just mentioned. So this knowledge is very, very important. In fact, just to share a tidbit with you, there is something called as a marginal cost of public funds, MCPF it is called. What does it say? It says for every 1 rupee that the government spends, what is the cost on society? And in India, it is 1:3. That is, if the government spends 100 rupees, the cost to the society is 300 rupees. Because of various, it could be inefficiencies, corruption, or wrong policies, or improperly designed policies, or social aspects. But that is the kind of cost that we are bearing for every rupee spent. And that is where these factors come into importance. So purely from if you apply the finance and accounting mind, you wouldn't spend that money at all. It doesn't make sense to spend 1 rupee and say cost is 3 rupees. But public finance does not work that way. The idea will be to bring down that 3 rupees as much as possible. Every percentage point improvement will definitely make a lot of difference to government, and that is where we as chartered accountants, finance professionals can be very, very effective. So moving on, let us now get into the opportunities in public finance. What is the landscape of opportunities? If you see it, if you see it as a continuum, what is it? First, I would say what I call it is the comfort zone. The kind of services which CS regularly do, accounts, audit, taxation, representations, filings, all of this. There are a whole set of opportunities in government as well, which many of you will still be doing. But it suffers from the same, from the familiar drawback that it is anybody can get in, very low entry barrier, but which we are comfortable doing. There is nothing new that we need to learn to do that. Then there is another set of, as you move further, emerging areas which are coming within our comfort zone, within accounts, audit, where you need to be open to such opportunities when they come up. You need to respond quick. You need to compete with fellow professionals. But still, I would say it is you are not still like a fish out of water. It is still you are comfortable doing it. Example, the GST is coming, so the impact of GST on government, or new taxation policies, what is the impact on government, or compliance from the government institutions. These are all not something that we need to completely learn afresh. Can be done, but lesser number of opportunities. Then there is an entire set of opportunities which the marketing people would typically call it the blue ocean, where you cross the from the seashore as you move along, the green water then becomes pure blue water, which is completely new avenues coming up, which as normal finance professionals we wouldn't even think of targeting. It's only when we start attending sessions like this, when we start seeing the opportunities, that we start thinking, hey, why don't I look at this opportunity as well? Because my skills as a CA are going to be useful here. So the whole idea is that we have to move from left to right. That we do more and more of the comfort zone, which anyway has to happen. As a CA, it's our livelihood. But we want to move more and more towards the right side, because that is where the challenges are. And as you will see, that is where the I would say the monetary benefits are also more there. The satisfaction level is, the challenges are more. And my endeavor today will be to give you some thoughts on how you can move from the left to the right. So I will not typically cover questions like government tenders, undercutting happens, how do we handle, and all that, because those are all still in the comfort zone. You are still fighting for the same pie. But my focus will be to help you understand what you need to do to move more and more towards the right of the value chain. So having said that, chartered accountants in public finance, why suddenly, why only CAs? Is it that public finance can also be handled by another set of professionals, another set of qualified professionals? Can economists handle it? Can management professionals, MBA finances handle it? Please pardon me if many of you are economists and MBA finances, nothing against you guys. But basically, what is it that makes CS very suited to a career in finance? Let's just look at it. And typically let us look at it on a SWOT model. What are the strengths which we need to leverage here? A strong knowledge of accounts, finance, taxation, audit and control aspects, legal aspects. We might not be lawyers, but we understand legal aspects pretty well. We have an understanding of IT. More and more the new younger people entering the professions have a very good hold on IT aspects, which is critical. We have an institute. We have organized ourselves into an institute, and there is a lot of leverage as an institute that we can gain as against lawyers or MBAs or economists, I would say. And of course, our own strong network, which is all over the country. So executing any assignment in another part of the country is not so difficult for a chartered accountant as it is for others, because we have a network that we can quickly tap onto. And these are all, I think, very good strengths when it comes to doing work with the government. Yes, it is not without weaknesses, which we need to cover. Traditionally, the limited exposure to governance and public finance aspects. We have not learnt it with the same intensity as we learnt corporate finance or corporate accounting. It is still not part of the curriculum yet, though there is the trend is moving towards including it, but there is no exclusive paper on public finance or anything that we know. And naturally, the fear of the unknown, which is there in all of us. Any new area that we try to get into, there is always a fear that will it work, will it not work, and a few years down the line, will I be better off or not? And probably some of the comfort zone that we already have in our corporate consulting practice could be one of the reasons. But I don't see any of the weaknesses big enough that we can't work on it and move forward. Then what is it? Let's move on to the opportunities. What are the opportunities? Huge skill gap in government. Government is still dependent on external consultants or CAs for the basic finance skills. Even if you look at an IRS officer, he doesn't have the necessary accounting skills to understand how the numbers are coming and what is the impact on his revenue, expenditure, asset, and liability. So there is a huge skill gap in government. Increasing awareness on the importance of public finance. If you have been following the newspaper articles and general media, we understand why more and more public finance is getting important. More and more at the country, state, and local body level, fiscal sustainability, as they call it, is very, very important for the economy to grow. Then there is a dearth of public finance professionals in the market. Both I would say from the institute side, as well as there is nothing exclusive where somebody can come out and say I am a public finance professional. Only thing, developments are only happening now, so that is a huge opportunity I see for CAs, because a lot of the basic things that others might need to learn, we don't need to learn, because our core account finance knowledge is very strong. Yes, there are threats which many of you are familiar. Competition is there from economists or whoever calls themselves public finance professionals, who qualify themselves with public finance courses, and they deliver services. Entry barriers are there, let us not deny that, because a lot of government work comes through tenders. There is a domination by the larger firms. The real challenging and the value adding assignments go to them. But if I look at the general SWOT, I mean, it doesn't look very different from what it would be for any of your regular work as well, except statutory audits where we have an edge. For all other works, I mean, you need to compete with fellow professionals as well as with non-CAs as well. So it is not very different. It is the same kind of SWOT. So this is, I think, gives you a perspective of, with this you can also look at your individual strengths and weaknesses, which you can leverage to make a mark in public finance as a career. So moving on, where to look for, where are the opportunities? I hope you remember the slide which we saw earlier, where we said you have core government on one side and the quasi-government on the other side. So let us try to understand from today's session as to where are the opportunities in terms of number, and where are the remunerative opportunities. And sadly, I mean, we can't have the cake and eat it too. So it does turn out that both may not be in the same place, which is why we have to understand where we want to position ourselves. The bulk of the opportunities are at the local government level, are with the government PSUs and the boards, authorities, and corporations. No brainer. I mean, it is obvious to everyone why, because sheer number of the institutions is large, so the number of opportunities is definitely larger there. It slightly dwindles at the state government level and lesser at the national government level or the social security funds and all that. Excuse me. Having said that, but the real remunerative opportunities, the big assignments or the lucrative assignments are at the higher levels. And at the lower levels, yes, it is a competitive market. Margins are thin and there's a lot of competition. So you can have multiple strategies, just like a businessman would look at it. Do you want to pitch yourself at the higher levels where assignments are fewer, you develop very niche specializations and target the really big assignments? Or you want to be a volume player, you develop a team within you, manage your costs, find ways to leverage your multiple assignments and have a play at the lower levels. Now this particular map is not cast in stone. There are public sector units, big public sector units where you get lucrative assignments. But as a generalization, you can look at it this way, and this might help you have your own strategy on where you want to pitch. It is even perfectly fine to say that I will start at the local government level and gradually move on to the higher levels, which is also understandable, which many of us are doing. But this understanding might help you. So moving on, where to look for? So this question keeps coming, telling, where do we look for these assignments? Many times it might appear that there are not many sources, it is all about government tenders and then things don't work there. or you need to keep a tab on who is calling which tender. But it's not that mad. I have tried to compile 9 different sources from where you can target opportunities. First is, of course, the familiar stuff. For those of us still who have lost some of our hair and we still have the habit of reading newspapers, I think I find that a very, very important source. But if mobile is your only medium of consuming news, yes, you will miss out on that. Or you better start reading newspapers. Look at the tenders, look at the publications. A lot of the governments, even those who are following e-procurement, will still continue to give a newspaper ad, those small boxes that you see called classifieds. Just glance through. Initially, it seems you will have to look at everything, but over a period of time, you will develop that intuition that you will quickly be able to separate out the real opportunities from the from the other announcements that are there. But yes, you will have to still pick up a newspaper and read it and turn the pages at least. Next is you could register on this e-procurement portals. All the state governments have their own e-procurement portals. Registration is either free or is at a very nominal price. I think 500 rupees per year or something that government of Karnataka charges. And you can either go by departments in which you are interested or set in some alerts. Many of these procurement portals send you email based on the alerts that you have set. You might say, I will do urban local body accounting, or use a keyword of urban local body you can set, and you can start getting those alerts, procurement opportunities. Similarly, if you can afford it, you can subscribe to some tender websites which give a slightly higher value added service in terms of alerts, a number of keywords, as well as they also offer support on how you can prepare tenders and all of that. Of course, so you can subscribe. There are many of them, and you can subscribe to them. Then, of course, you can always register on the websites of these funding agencies. I'm talking of agencies like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, the UN agencies, UNDP, SwissAid, many of these philanthropic foundations, where you can create your profile and register on those websites. You can also set up the kind of alerts you want to receive, the procurement opportunities, and you will get it in your inbox on a daily basis. Daily, weekly digest and all you get. Then, of course, sometimes it is we start looking out so far that we tend to miss something which is near. The pdicai.org is a very good service. It sends you daily news alerts, which also has procurement opportunities, and a lot of government tenders are there. So if you have not yet registered, if you have not yet subscribed to that, please do that. Opportunities within India, this is a very good source. There is also a portal called developmentaid.org, where a lot of this externally aided projects, externally funded projects, all the procurement opportunities coming under that get listed there. You can create a profile on this, and you can create the specific skill sets. As you develop experience, you can build your profile there. And when there is work here, people look at your profile. If your profile comes up, then you will be contacted. You can also look at opportunities and directly apply for them. So this is an international portal. So you can decide on the countries or regions where you want to focus. You might initially say only India I'll do, and you can start off with that. But it's a very effective way of doing. Then, of course, I need not say, I mean, this is something we follow for all our work, not only work in public finance, is to have a good network of contacts within the CA community as well as outside with people who are doing work in public finance. Because definitely it is not possible for anyone to do it on their own fully. They will need associates. So having good contacts will definitely help. Have a very, very good LinkedIn profile because that is another source which can get you assignments. Social media in general, but I would definitely recommend LinkedIn, where you build your profile. You can even have under your name that you are a public finance consultant, and you can connect to groups. There are a lot of groups of public finance where you can get in, and then the opportunities can start flowing from there. And of course, the old traditional system is always there. Always pick up a phone, and with contacts you have developed within government, be in touch with the people who matter or who can get you such assignments. And I think something will definitely come along the way. I'm sure if you applied your mind or some of these techniques in the next 1 week or so, you will definitely come across some assignment. It is only that you need to start tuning yourself to that frequency, and opportunities automatically will start falling to your eye as you go about your daily work. So these are some of the sources I thought I would share with you. Then what is the kind of assignments you need to look for? How are public finance assignments packaged? Nobody is going to come and tell you this is a public finance assignment, you apply for it. Let us look at a few typical assignments, many of which we have worked on. I personally worked on, and our company also has worked on. A number of assignments come for preparation of accounts manual, budget manual, audit manuals. Number of agencies keep coming up with such requirements, so have a look out for that. Assessment of internal controls and audits. In fact, when the IFC framework came, Internal Financial Control Framework, we were fortunate to do it for a couple of government agencies where we developed their internal finance control frameworks. Audits, I'll not get into that. It's a familiar area. Certification of financial statements is coming up in a very big way, particularly of urban local bodies. So watch out for that. Policy formulation or review. So a lot of institutions come up with assistance or consultancy support required for developing policies or reviewing existing policies. Accrual accounting migration. This is one evergreen area, at least in India. You could be involved at the strategy level. You could be designing the accounting system, which is the manuals, processes, and all that. You can be involved as an implementation consultant, or you could be involved in the training. So multiple assignments come in this area. Organization structure, restructuring, or strengthening. So strengthening is a very popular word within government. Normally, we wouldn't look at such assignments telling it must be some HR assignment or organization development assignment. But in many cases, it turns out that CAs are perfectly eligible to apply, and we are also able to do a very good job of it at the end of the day. Human resource capacity assessment, strengthening, these kind of assignments also come. Business process reengineering, very, very important. We might think this is IT, it is an IT assignment packaged as BPR, but in many cases it is not that. You first do the business process reengineering and then think of bringing in IT, which is where CS can be very, very effective, because our knowledge of processes and controls is very strong, and that is where we are very effective in reengineering assignments. IT implementation in government, e-governance. So I'm not talking of core development of software, though some of us might be into that as well. But apart from development, there's a whole set of requirements around documenting the requirements itself. What do we want the e-governance solution to do? Somebody has to create a document, and that is where a lot of assignments come. They might call it functional requirements documents. It might be called business requirements documents, user requirement documents. But the assignment is basically about understanding the operations of the entity, understanding the controls, and documenting it in a clear, logical way so that an IT system can be built around it. A lot of studies. Government is all about studies, particularly in the public finance management area. There are established international frameworks, like the one which is on the screen. There is something called as a Public Finance Management Assessment Framework. There is something called as a Public Expenditure Review Technique, PERT, and assignments keep coming for these. Now, I'm not saying all of these assignments you are eligible to apply right away. But once you start looking out for these opportunities, start doing the lower end stuff first, you automatically start becoming eligible for the higher assignments. Bond issuances, yes, it has not yet taken off in a big way in India, particularly municipal bond issuances, but at any time it might happen, and then there will be a lot of requirement for finance professionals. Project management consultancy. So there are two ways you can get involved in this. Either if you are a company, you can straight away take the entire project management consultancy assignment itself for a number of government projects, or you could be the finance expert as an individual on the project management consultancy team. I think we have done at least 3 or 4 assignments where by ourselves we might not be able to do the entire PMC assignment as it is called, but we have been the finance experts on the project management consultancy team. So institutional assessment, impact assessment, diagnostic, sectoral studies, these are all the key words that I'm giving you, where opportunities come disguised under these names, and you can start looking at that. Monitoring and evaluation studies, rankings. The newest craze in government is to create a ranking for everything and everything, for all their programs or schemes. They start ranking the implementing agencies, which is good. There's a healthy competition within government, but the entire data work around it, data collection, data analysis, presentation, and doing the rankings, professionals have a very important role to play. Then, of course, public finance management reforms or treasury reforms. This is apart from local bodies, I am telling, at the state government, central government level, or in any of the autonomous bodies. Then, of course, revenue enhancement, expenditure efficiency studies. See, if you see public finance as the body, these are all the hands and legs of public finance. Revenue enhancement, expenditure efficiency, fiscal stability. So, a lot of studies, design, implementation assignments come, and these are all at every level, at the national, state, or at the local level. And the local level is the easiest to reach. So you should be looking out for these kind of assignments. And of course, the new areas which are emerging, needless to say, data analytics, business intelligence, blockchain. We might think it has not yet come into government, but you'll be surprised to know a lot of state governments are working on it, particularly the GST analytics part. I know at least 2 or 3 state governments which have given out tenders, and they have consultancies helping them on the back-end GST analytics, using the GST and data, running their own analytics on compliances. So these are assignments which will come up, and very, very few players in these areas. So please make a note of the particular words that I have underlined, because these are the words that you will generally find when you start looking out for opportunities. So moving on, some specific areas. I'll not spend too much time on this because many of which people are familiar. So under municipal finance, the traditional areas are anyway there. Implementation of accrual-based accounting. It is still a very, very live or a hot potato in the country today. So assignments keep coming up there. You could be involved as what typically called FLCs, field level consultants, helping individual ULBs, urban local bodies migrate their accounts. You might be involved in maintenance of accounts, preparation of financial statements. They maintain the accounts, but you help them in preparing the balance sheet and income expenditure, opening balance sheet preparation, valuation of assets. So as you start looking at, a lot of such assignments will keep coming. Sorry. And there are also a whole set of new areas which are emerging. Certification of financial statements. See what is happening across the country. Municipalities are audited by the respective state audit departments, and almost in all states the audits are in arrears, at least 3 to 4 years of arrears. But the central government is bringing out scheme after scheme and saying to to access grants under the scheme, you have to submit audited financial statements. That is where states are adopting the strategy, telling let the normal statutory audit happen in its due course, but let us get financial statements prepared of municipalities and get them certified by chartered accountants. So this is an area which is going to boom in the next year or so, and please watch out for that. Revenue enhancement and expenditure efficiency are as it is. There were big words. I mean the trending words because of the Finance Commission recommendations. But it is all the more going to be important in the post-COVID scenario where government budgets are very, very stretched, and they will look at opportunities to enhance revenue and bring expenditure efficiencies. Financial analysis for decision making. Many of you know, even the governments which produce balance sheet and income expenditure, it is not being used for analysis. And that is something which is gaining attention all over, telling what is it after so many years of urban local body accounting, what are we getting out of it? So opportunities will come up there. Implementation of accounting standards for local bodies, which was just mentioned in the introductory talk, that pilots are starting, and very soon you will move to the implementation as well. Credit rating, as and when the municipal bond market picks up, credit rating and helping in the entire process of municipal bond issue. The institute is also focusing a lot on pushing the municipal bond market. So those opportunities will come. E-governance and software related services are it's a kind of a evergreen area. And of course, compliance, the GST and the typical IT or TDS compliance, which is there, is also coming up in a big way. So this was as far as municipal finance was concerned. So moving on to PRI is Panchayat Raj institutions. These are rural local bodies. May not be as many opportunities as urban local bodies, but still conversion of accounting system into accrual accounting at Panchayat level. Of course, Karnataka did it in a big way, and a lot of CA firms got those opportunities. And then the emerging areas which are coming up is a lot of discussion is happening on whole of government accounting, WOG, or whole of government accounting, which says that government has to prepare its financial statement as a whole, central government, including the state and the local governments. It is a huge area. You can't even imagine. I mean, we all know how difficult it is to produce balance sheet for one entity. Now think of consolidation at different levels and the issues it will create. But the thinking has started, and they are looking at various ways to consolidate. And rural local bodies, it is much easier to do it than urban local bodies. Outsourced audit is another area. In fact, we ourselves are advising a couple of state governments where they have huge arrears in audit of panchayats, telling why don't you outsource it? There is no way you are going to cover the entire backlog, because they do 100% audit, not even a sample based audit. But you can involve the CA Institute and get this audit backlog cleared on a mission mode. So opportunities will definitely come there. Government of Odisha, Government of Chhattisgarh, they are all already thinking on those lines. Infrastructure finance. I mean, you don't need me to tell me that the focus on infrastructure is only going to increase, because it is in these difficult times, it is government spending which will kickstart the economy. So as the spending increases, whole set of opportunities come on to preparing proper DPRs, or at least the finance part of the DPRs, costing the projects properly, calculating the IRR or the NPV, and building a case for funding that project. There is a huge skill set gap within government. As we speak to different government entities, we are realizing that this is very the skill gap is very acute, and they will need help of professionals in that. Smart cities mission, the original mission might be ending, but it will definitely come in a repackaged form, and there will be opportunities there. I'm not going to read everything that is on screen. Public-private partnerships, working on different models, what kind of partnerships work, and each of the model, what is the impact on the finances of the project. So that is where finance skills will be very helpful. And government is also planning of setting up new investment vehicles or special purpose vehicles for infrastructure financing. I think that will also bring in a lot of opportunities. Then of course all the urban renewal schemes, the smart cities, Amrut, these are all names of the schemes that are there. They also have bring up a lot of opportunities. Traditional areas where you do scheme audit, you do the audit of utilization certificates, or you do internal audit of urban local bodies, which is coming up. Plus new areas which are there where the scheme itself is asking for certain reforms. A scheme might say, unless you take up 1, 2, 3 reforms, you are not eligible for grants. And governments will need help in ensuring that they take up these reforms, whether it is e-governance reforms, cadre linked training, augmenting double entry accounting, revenue enhancement, devolution of funds from one level of government to another, credit rating thing, increasing fees and user charges. So a whole set of opportunities are coming. And many of these are at the urban local body. So the number of opportunities also are not small, that somebody might say, where do we access all this? There will be very few. It is not like that. All these will be at the urban local body level. And there are 500 Amrut cities in India. And more such schemes are going to come and more conditions, which is good for consultants like us. Atmanirbhar scheme has opened up a whole set of opportunities. Right from one area is, of course, many of you might already be working, supporting your clients or businesses in making sense of these government schemes and helping them access the benefits of those schemes, which is very, very important. Somebody needs to understand the schemes. Financial and operating restructuring of the electricity supply or distribution companies. There are more than 60 such discoms in the country, and a lot of state government borrowing as well as grants are linked to this restructuring. So opportunities are going to come. Yes, tender conditions will be high, but once you start working on this, I'm sure once you have the right contacts, we can always find a place to get involved in these assignments. The infrastructure push that the government is doing, this is going to create a huge need for funding proposals or detailed project reports which need to be prepared at every level, and that is where we can get involved. And as part of your practice, if there are certain sectors, when I mean sectors, I mean industries where you have a strong presence, you have a very deep understanding of that sector, please make sure that you look at what Atmanirbhar is offering for that sector, whether it is mining, coal sector, ports, airports, or not airports exactly, aircraft manufacturing. There are so many focus sectors that Atmanirbhar scheme is talking about. Understand the scheme provisions and advise your clients. And I think that can open up these are not opportunities directly with government, but these are opportunities as a result of government actions, which also we should be looking at. And ULB is urban local body, municipalities. A lot of reforms are being talked at the municipal level in terms of increasing tax revenues, accounting reforms and all that. So that is also going to open up a lot of opportunities. Central Finance Commission, the initial report is out. Another report is due for the next 5-year term. But we already know some of the things that it is talking about. It is talking of a big way on submission of audited accounts of urban local bodies for accessing grants. And the moment you say audited accounts of urban local bodies, it is audited financial statements, and there is a heavy reliance on chartered accountants to do it. There's nobody else who can do it, at least now. Service level benchmarks need to be reported. These service level benchmarks need to be audited. The data behind it needs to be audited. The reporting behind it needs to be audited, which will also be some of the areas which are going to come up. Yes, there are a whole lot of other schemes. Let me not get into that in the interest of time, because there are a few other things that I need to share with you. So under each of these schemes, there are opportunities which you need to look for. Now, there is another sector which is working with the government. This is not core government. There are a lot of public finance management players, lot of institutions there. There are opportunities for public finance management specialists working with the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, UNDP, French Development Agency, such institutions which look for public finance experts. Yes, if you're a novice, you're just getting into the field, you may not be able to do it. But once you develop experience, for example, I am a consultant to the World Bank in India, and to be very frank, it was not an opportunity which we applied at all. It came as people saw our work in different projects. One fine day, we got a call from World Bank telling, would you like to work with us on a consultant basis, helping us with some projects. So as part of that, I'm working on a project in Himachal Pradesh, which directly maybe I would have never applied at all, because in terms of bandwidth and to do work in Himachal Pradesh is not possible for smaller firms. Once you get associated with such agencies, you get a lot of exposure and things start happening. You can be a local public finance management specialist with international consultants. This is a very, if you recollect, I was talking of registering yourself on this developmentaid.org platform. Once you register, assume there is a project in India happening, and one of, let's take an example, German firm gets selected in an international tender. Now this German firm is looking for experts within India who have the necessary expertise to execute this assignment. Typically they'll keep the team leader role or the project management role, and will look for local experts, because that is what makes sense for them economically also. They can't keep shipping experts from Germany for these projects, and many of these are longer term projects. That is where they look up your profile, they see what kind of experience you have, and then they start approaching you for local requirements. That is in India for international consultants. Then of course with financial intermediaries, many of these infrastructure funds or funding institutions that are which channel these grants and loan to governments, typically like Urban Infrastructure Development and Finance Corporation of a state. It handles a huge amount of money which comes from the central government as well as lending institutions, and tries to channel it lower down the line. They will require experts on a whole host of projects. We have done work for of that type. And of course, it's interesting now that a lot of global philanthropies are also focusing on public finance management. This is a very, very recent trend. Otherwise, their focus has been mostly on social issues and maybe economic issues as well. Health, education, sanitation, those were the areas they were worrying about. But it's very interesting to see that they are now focusing on public finance directly. When I mean international philanthropies, I mean it might be your Omidyar Network or your Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or your Microsoft Foundation. So many are there, or your Google Foundation or whatever. So they are focusing on public finance, on improving public finance, and that can create a lot of opportunities. In fact, it's already started. The opportunities have started coming. It will increase in the coming months. Now, just let me leave some thoughts with you. What are the new trends in public finance coming up? You can always identify which is your sweet spot and develop your knowledge and skills there, so that when the opportunities come, you are ready for it. One is, of course, the revision of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act itself, of the center as well as the states. A lot of debate is going on whether the fiscal deficit target themselves are reasonable. Who set this 3% target? Is it reasonable? Is it okay in COVID times to say it is still 3%? What are the kinds of relaxations required? So there's a lot of thinking happening on that, and amendments will come. Then, of course, the general financial rules which came in 2017 brought in of Government of India. They brought in a lot of new concepts. DBT, direct benefit transfer, is there. The concept of revenue and capital in government, as against the plan and non-plan which they were working on earlier, is also there. Outcome budgeting concepts are coming. So these are all new concepts which are coming up, and reorganization of the planning function. Every state government of India did it. The planning department was planning ministry or planning commission was disbanded, and the Niti Aayog is in place. Similarly, every state is looking at how it can reorganize its planning department, and there are opportunities which can come there. So I'm not talking of specific opportunities because these are all emerging areas. These are thoughts I'm leaving with you so that you can explore them further. Accrual accounting at central and state government level, not yet kicked off in India, but the tides have started turning. People have started talking about it. A lot of smaller countries have already done it. Pakistan has done it. Nepal is implementing. Sri Lanka is implementing. But India is not yet implemented. So it's only a question of time. Accrual accounting in Indian Railways. This is a known area. Institute has been very active in this. And maybe probably the opportunities have passed here. But still, that was a huge area. Data analytics, blockchain, and how it can be applied in public finance will be a very a new area which will come up. And recently there was a very interesting announcement in Atmanirbhar scheme that for global tenders up to 200 crores, it will not be global tenders. Rather, they'll be discontinued. It will be local tenders. We are hoping this will open up new opportunities for players like you and me within the domestic market. Then there are the whole set of initiatives that the government is bringing, which are centered around this GEM. So what is GEM? It is Jandan, Aadhaar, and mobile. So a lot of the beneficiary-oriented schemes are being structured around this GEM trinity, as we might call it, and help is required there in setting the processes, setting the technology systems for that, setting the fund flows mechanisms, accounting mechanisms, which is very important, and we can see a lot of action in the coming years on this. Online PFM training is already picked up in a big way. The institute is also active. I'll just cover that in the next slides, and you can think of that as well. In fact, institutions like we know that the state government institution, which is in Bangalore, Fiscal Policy Institute, they have also already moved on to online training. So the government is also moving on this. Then, of course, these studies are going to continue. I just mentioned public finance management and accountability studies and expenditure review techniques, which are important. And these studies are only going to increase further. Then, of course, research opportunities are there. The institute is active here. You can get in touch, and I'll cover it in the next slide. Now, apart from the 10 or 12 bullet points, I created an exclusive slide for this because this is going to be the future. Climate finance and SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. How governments are going to finance their sustainable development targets. The processes around it, the accounting processes, budgeting processes, audit, performance management. A huge set of opportunities are going to come, and it is moving fast. And I expect that once it comes, it is going to stay for some time. It is not going to be a fleeting set of opportunities, because both are problems. Probably the biggest problems before humanity now, and we don't seem to be doing anything significant about it. So the only way to look at it is the opportunities to cash in on the opportunities and contribute our bit to making it happen. So yes, quickly let us look at the challenges. I know by now many of you would have thought of so many challenges. These are all things nice to hear, you might say, but there are challenges. But then I would say, which field doesn't have challenges? So what are the specific challenges here? In sourcing work, challenges is domination by large players. The really lucrative and challenging assignments go to the larger players. That is a problem. And insufficient past experience, particularly for people, many of you who are getting into this sector, many tenders ask for past experience. It is a chicken and egg problem, I understand. That is a challenge. Tenders require a lot of bandwidth and are too competitive. It requires a disproportionate amount of effort, every tender. Many go through 3 stages, and at every 3 stages you have to submit bulky documents, you have to prepare, you have to rework your profile to suit the particular assignment. These are all time consuming. That is the challenge. And of course, corruption is there. When we talk of government, it is a reality of our present scenario, and there is no doing away with that. When you actually somehow you manage to get the work and get into execution, there are a whole set of challenges. Is that it is not only the finance requirement that is in play. You will need multiple expertise requirements. You remember that cycle that I showed you, the wheel where we had multiple experience requirements, which will require you to tie up with others and develop those networks. Then, of course, thin margins, particularly when it has been negotiated or a least cost tender. I mean, each of you will have a story to tell about this, so I'll not even get into that area. Then, at many times, there is a lack of clarity from the client side. It is understandable also, but then unfortunately we end up bearing the brunt of it, and there's a lot of scope creep as the assignment goes along. We've experienced it a number of assignments. Then lack of ownership from the client side is there. Project champions change suddenly, and once project champion changes, the priorities change. That is there. Payment delays are going to be there, and yes, corruption is also one of the factors. Though I would still say it is still possible to do work without being affected by it too much. As you move higher in the value chain, you will find ways to work around it. So these are the challenges. I don't have an answer to all of this as to how it can be done. But what might help is to address some of these challenges is a typical progression. How do I see a PFM consultant developing? Naturally, when you're taking the baby steps, you cannot afford to be very selective. Take assignments as they come. Look at the non-tender, so to say, assignments where the government does not need to go for a tender. The typical 1 lakh or 2 lakh value tenders. Do the work, do some pro bono work. A lot of NGOs and philanthropies are working there. So once they know you want to do something, of course, subject to whatever you can afford to invest on this, and focus on gaining the knowledge and experience. Then as you move on, that is when you start targeting specific tenders, mostly local tenders, where you know I've done work in this earlier, I've done a pro bono work, I can show this experience, or I have teamed up with someone, so you can show that experience. You have to team up with other experts because you might not have a big enough team at this stage to apply on your own. But that is when you start doing some interesting work and start developing the contacts as well. You start becoming visible with the people who matter in the public finance space, and focus on doing at least 1 or 2 high visibility assignments, and of course profitable assignments, because you can't afford to keep investing in the core competence area. You have to generate money out of it as well. What do I mean by high visibility assignments? Like I just told you, climate finance, or you do some work for COVID, post-COVID efforts of the government, where people are going to remember you telling, yes, this person helped us and did a good job of it. When the government is stretched, if you help on those areas. In fact, recently for Orissa, government of Orissa, we were doing other work. But when we were approached telling they needed a quick standard operating procedure for handling the migrants when they come in trains. So we just spent 2-3 days on it, drew up a quick operating procedure and handed it over to them. Of course, they built on that and made their own procedure, but such small efforts will be very well recognized and remembered. And it's also an opportunity to show your skills. So as you start sprinting along, this is when you will get an idea at this stage as to what are your niche areas within the broad public finance area. I'm going to say, is it local body finances, or is it treasury reforms, or is it e-governance reforms, or is it macroeconomics that is your strong area? So start targeting larger tenders, which will definitely require associations with bigger consulting firms, both national as well as international. Have an active social media presence, because the visibility factor is very important here. You start to be seen as somebody who can contribute to the field rather than just execute assignments. Participate in the right discussions or forums. And of course, also look at creating some intellectual property at this stage. It could be papers presented, or you can write a book, or you can copyright some of your techniques. So that is when you start looking at it. And of course, at the final stage, when it is actually time to take off, there is no single thing that I can recommend. By then, you would know what is your area of strength and weakness. Different models are there. Some people establish their own organizations, grow big. Somebody might say, no, let me remain an individual player. Let me develop my core competence in some areas, work with bigger consulting firms. Somebody might develop internal teams. Somebody might develop a network. Somebody might decide to join within government as well. So we are seeing a lot of that also happening. Or somebody might decide to take up a job with a bigger consulting firm. So it is purely left to you as to how you will shape your career, as in the case of all other fields. But one thing I will definitely say is very, very important throughout this, I would say, mentality framework or cycle, is the continuous learning. Very, very important. And talking of continuous learning, I really apologize for taking my own case study and boring you with this, but this was something which was handy and I felt is very appropriate at this stage. So subsequent to my CA, I didn't do much of public finance. It took some time to understand that public finance is my area. But in the last 4 to 5 years, as you do more and more work, these are the set of qualifications that I had to take up. Invariably take up, I would say. I had to understand something on solving public policy problems, because that area need to be brushed up. Some knowledge on economic policy making. Then, of course, there is a certification in public finance management offered by the International Monetary Fund. I did that. Then something on innovative finance. Then the certification on public finance management by ACCA Global. They have a certification. Then something on unlocking investments in emerging markets by the World Bank. And of late, I've just registered for the PFM course of CA Institute. So most of these are short certificate courses. It's not that you have to go through the rigor of doing your chartered accountancy course to do each of them, but do it at the right moment so that you are equipped with the right skills to be able to deliver value to the client. And there is no stopping. Tomorrow a new kind of assignment comes. For example, suppose you get a climate finance assignment. So you will have to do some studying around climate finance and understand how climate finance works, which is, for those of you academically inclined, it's an interesting thing, but it is invariable if you have to really build a career here. So now, where is it that you can get involved? I mean, there is a lot of things you can do within ICAI and get involved to build your career. You need not look very much outside. So at the HO level of ICAI, there is a committee on public and government financial management, under the aegis of which today's this event is also happening. There is a research committee which encourages research in public finance aspects. There is a committee on economic commercial laws, economic advisory. There is also a sustainable reporting standards board, which is a relatively new board and is doing a lot of work. At the SIRC level, there is a committee on public and government financial management. In the introduction, it was just mentioned that we are looking at trying to take up a pilot, one city in Karnataka and one city in Tamil Nadu, where these accounting standards for local bodies, which the ICAI committee has come up with, it can actually, we will try to recast the financial statements of a municipality applying these new standards, to show to the government that we are not just talking theory, this is actually possible to do, subject to 1, 2, 3, 4 limitations, and you need to start to make a beginning. So these committees, they give a lot of opportunities. One is, of course, you can enhance knowledge, you can develop contacts. It's all we're of the same fraternity. People are involved, members of the institute. You can interact with them, like-minded people. You also get to explore a lot of the blue ocean, because the committee typically does work where there may not be immediate work for chartered accountants, because for that anyway our members are there to give the services. The committee is trying to push the government beyond the limits to try to do new things in public finance. That is the blue ocean according to me. And then of course it's also an opportunity to contribute to the committee's activities. And of course, let me not forget to mention that you do get CPE credits for the work you do for the committee. So how do you go about it? Get in touch with every committee has a secretariat. So get in touch with the secretary with specific areas where you would like to get involved. Every year they call for an expression of interest also. The committee, I know definitely the Public and Government Finance Management Committee calls for it, where you can say, yes, these are the areas I'm interested in, and they will try to get you involved. In fact, my rough estimate is more than 100 CAs are involved across the country in various activities of the committee. So committee activities, as I was just mentioning, it has brought out the entire set of accounting standards for local bodies, which are structured around the public sector accounting standards, international public sector accounting standards. Implementation guidance is required because governments will not be able to implement on their own. So the committee is working towards that. Outreach, sensitization of stakeholders, studies and research, training, lot of training sessions, many of you might have attended already. The committee has brought out many publications as well as undertaking pilots and proof of concepts. So in each of these, there is an opportunity for people to get involved. Please do involve yourselves because it can start at home. You need not look much beyond the institute to start your work. And of course, the online certification course is also launched by ICAI in PFM. I think the 5th and 6th batches are starting shortly. Yes, it is in the initial batches where there are restrictions on time, you have to be attendance and all that. But I think as it progresses, it will be kind of anytime registration and you can attend it anytime. And as long as you complete all the video lectures, you can take it up at your own convenience. I think that is when it will really pick up. So that is also an input for the committee. I think the earliest that we do that, a lot more members will be able to take that up. So please do that, get involved in all of this. And of course, let me quickly go through this. Public finance, what is the advantage over other traditional practice areas? Relatively lesser competition, which is why you are all attending this, because there are lesser, within the CA fraternity itself, there are lesser people here, so competition is lesser. And higher margins, particularly the value adding assignments, huge learning opportunities, you get to learn something new. And for many cases, you have the early mover advantage over the, I would say, the other people with other qualifications. International opportunities it can open up because the challenges of public finance are the same worldwide. No government can say we have enough money. All governments are in deficit. So they are always looking to do better with their public finances, and that is where help is required. And opportunity to, needless to say, for me personally and my colleagues at our company at Maxi, the opportunity to contribute to the society, to the government, and of course nation building, which is the institute's mandate itself, is there. So if you're looking at a higher sense of gratification from your work, definitely public finance is an area to get involved. So what it takes, let me quickly, I'll not take too much time so that we can have a discussion. So what it takes to be successful, cross-functional knowledge, either through formal qualification or you develop your own area of interest, particularly in the area of public policy, development economics, and information technology or e-governance. Definitely these three areas, if not others. Understanding of governance aspects as against commercial thinking, very, very important. You can't apply the same yardstick that you would apply when you consult your corporate clients. You have to understand governance and the social causes behind government expenditure or functioning to be able to advise well. And then of course you will have to participate in, for example, the ICAI committee or other government committees, online blogs, online forums. You have to participate actively to demonstrate your interest as well as skill sets. Social media presence, LinkedIn, which I just mentioned. Then willingness to learn and unlearn continuously, very, very important. You can't stick to the same set of tools that you used yesterday because it is the dynamic area. Writing, publication and presentation skills. please get into writing at the earliest and presenting papers, because that is where you stand out as a consultant and not a typical auditor. Because the moment somebody sees CA, audit is what comes into mind. But if what we are trying to target here is the consulting opportunities more. So you will have to do a lot of writing and knowledge sharing so that you are recognized as an expert. Then, of course, positive attitude and lots of patience. With government, you definitely need lots of patience. Seemingly, things which should seemingly work in a easy way don't work. You know, there is a very famous law of unintended consequences, which applies to public policy very well. The government's intention is something, but the policy which comes out is something else. And thanks to a shoddy implementation, what the benefits which come out are completely different, and many times contrary to the original intended benefits, which is when the cost to society also goes up. So you need patience with the government. Many times your work may also go unrecognized, but be patient. I mean, it's a question of time. And of course, a lot of creative problem skills are required. Sometimes you'll have to keep your accountant, or I would say not our accountant brain aside, and look at creative problem solving skills. Of course, as long as the creativity doesn't extend to accounting aspects. So very important. So these are some of the resources that I thought I'll share with you, learning resources. Websites of the IMF, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, OECD are very, very informative as far as public finance is concerned. The IPSAS-B website, International Public Sector Accounting Standards Board, is also useful. PIFA is a framework for assessing public finance systems. So there is a PFM blog by IMF that gives very interesting. Probably they say they post one blog a week or something, so it's not very heavy reading. You can look at that, Public Finance International. And once you're LinkedIn on LinkedIn, there are a lot of LinkedIn groups dedicated to public finance. So be on those groups, and you will know what is happening elsewhere. The best cases, you will actually come across opportunities. Worst cases, if not opportunities, for your knowledge sharing, definitely it will be very useful. Then there are online courses. The CA Institute has its own course. Then there is IMF has its course. ACCA has its own course on public finance. Make sure that you do at least one of them, and so that you are equipped. And of course, ICAI TV itself has a dedicated channel which is called Local Bodies, where a lot of these talks are hosted, and very informative. A lot of senior professionals have shared their experience on how accounting reforms have to be implemented. There is an exclusive session on opportunities with ADB. How do you anchor those opportunities? How do you target those opportunities? All, of course, conducted under the aegis of this committee itself, and it is very informative. So please make use of these resources. There might be many more, but these are just some of them. Then, of course, that's more or less what I had to share with you. So I hope these insights have been useful, and each of you have gained some tidbits from this, based on which you can chart your own course and decide which is your sweet spot, or which is the spot you want to challenge yourself. But don't wait too long. If you're serious about a career in public finance, take that plunge, start doing work, and I'm sure, I mean, I didn't know when I qualified in 2002 that I will be a public finance consultant. It never happened that way. It's just that the interest developed, and thanks to some of my own mentors and sessions like this, listening to seniors, that is when the interest developed and work started happening. And for any help, please do contact me. I'll be very happy to have a chat on this. So back to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ashok Rao, sir. I am literally waiting for the joining of Chairman Dheeraj Khandelwal. He could not able to join the session. He's saying that iPad and all. I don't know the members when are taking in higher position and making, because many members are asking where is the CCM. The when accepted, we have to be committed and work. What I believe. whether I am a very small person or a big person. And then we contacted a vice chairman of the committee also. He is also could not able to join. But only my intention is that the public and government financial management committee has assigned some tasks. As you said in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, that pilot project, we are trying to get an appointment for the municipal reform cell, and we want to present ourselves. But this pandemic time, we are not, the government officials is also not allowing to meet us. This was the
Very
difficulties we are facing. But somehow initiative was very good. The initiative of training the Gram Panchayat accounting bodies and this implementation of local accounting standards. If that was the case implemented, or many of chartered accountants in Karnataka will get more opportunities in this sector. My motto is that to get it this sector to be opened and more the youngsters, the who wanted to serve, if they have to come for this service, then only this all tender and whatever the turnover fixing, that all to be streamlined. The people is getting more because it is very, I think it is very limited number of people are handling this assignments presently. That's the reason the Bangalore branch is thought it could be conducted with the uh, committee of public and government financial management. Sir, you have addressed very well for the today's session, and it is made an enlightened that all the members can think over, yes, this is the opportunity is there and where we can serve and brand our increase of our chartered accountancy brand is most important. So on behalf of all the viewers, sir, I would like to thank you for spending your time. Definitely our members will contact you in due course. Yes, that is also our motto of Dhyana Dasava, spreading knowledge. And also the more our members, that's the reason we have kept it this month, all the sessions related, oriented about the new professional. However, we missed the address of CA Dheeraj Kumar Kandelwal, Chairman Committee on Public and Government Financial Management. I will not leave here only. I will request him continuously. I will request him one of the other session because this is a relevant session actually. Today's professional opportunities in government sector and committee is also the committee where they are serving for the members. So, however, I will catch hold our central council member and let what our expectation of the members also, let our members also ask the many their queries. With that, sir, I am very much thankful for sparing your knowledge. And this is in a dry area. Definitely, our members will take much input from your side in due course, sir. And also, I
Sure,
thank
sir.
all the members. Dear members, on 21st next Wednesday, we are having session on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency by CA Vivek Shah from Mumbai is going to address. On 22nd October, we are having session new professional opportunities, benefits available under foreign trade policy and other schemes. CA Abhishek Sharma from Jaipur is going to address, and how to grow your practice digitally using social media. On 23rd October is going to be addressed by CA Sanjeev Sanghvi from Kolkata is going to address. And after that, we are having a session on 28th October. The many members are asking, we already 2 sessions are conducted on code of ethics. Again, 28th October, we are having a code of ethics session from CA Dheeraj K. Sharma from Gurugrama. It's a North India. So these all the sessions will be scheduled for next 4 sessions in the October. Kindly make note that, and you kindly send whatever the suggestions for the Bangalore branch. What is the new areas we have can have the our Jnanadosava. That note, I request our Bangalore branch secretary is waiting to render the formal vote of thanks to the speaker and all the viewers. Over to Srinivas.
Thank you, Ashok sir. It was an eye-opener session for what are the opportunities in government sector. Very well explained by you. I thank on behalf of Bangalore branch of ICA for your time and efforts in sharing the knowledge on government sector audits. I once again thank you, and I thank all the members and viewers for actively participating in this program. And I also communicate that I want to communicate that due to some technical glitches, maybe our central council member is not present at today's session. Once again, I thank him also in his absence, and I'll thank all the members and viewers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, one and all. Okay, thank you, sir.